Alright, we are live, ladies and germs. Forgive me if I seem a little bit out of it. I've not been feeling very good the last couple of days. Been fighting a cold recently. And I've also been extremely exhausted. It's been a very busy week. Doing a lot of painting around the house, and of course painting the new recording studio, which, well, it's not new, but that's what it's going to become once it's completely done. And also did CorksCon yesterday, which went very well. You know, now I got a race review here, and there's a lot to talk about from what happened this week and also what happened in this race today, because it's a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man. Welcome to tonight's edition of The Fuel, where tonight we are going to be talking about the 2022 AdventHealth 400 from the Kansas Speedway. So we have reached the halfway point of the 2022 regular season in the Cup Series. And let me say, as I'm, sitting here trying to get over this cold that I've had the last couple days, that's just absolutely whipping my ass, to say the least. One thing I gotta mention here, this is a race that's got me fucking confused. Like, did I love it? Did I hate it with the passion of 1,000 burning suns? Like, I don't know, man. I mean, this may have been one of the craziest NASCAR Cup Series races that I've seen in recent memory. Because it's just so much stupid shit happened in this race that it's not even funny. I mean, a lot of us were expecting a somewhat decent race because of the fact that, this next-gen car seems to be doing a lot of good as far as the mile-and-a-half races are concerned. And it definitely did it to a certain extent. I mean, this race wasn't completely perfect. There were a lot of dry spots as they got into long runs. But, yeah, just an absolutely weird race all around. But definitely the big talking point that's going to be coming out of this weekend is Goodyear's tires completely sucking all kinds of ass. Okay, by my count, we had, over the course of this weekend in the Cup Series, 8 left rear tire failures. And apparently Goodyear was well aware of this. And, I've been seeing it online saying that, oh, well, the team shouldn't, mess with their pressures all that much, and all this other bullshit. And it's like, at some point, we need to stop cutting Goodyear a lot. We need to stop giving them the benefit of the doubt, okay? Because this is not the first time that Goodyear's tires have sucked ass and caused, a major controversy. I mean, remember Tiregate, 2008 Brickyard 400, which completely ruined the luster of that event? And now we have this shit going on where it's like we have a bunch of left rear tires going flat and everybody's like, all tough titties for the teams. It's like, no, fuck that shit. I mean, at some point we need to start holding Goodyear accountable for their shit-ass tires. I mean, if it was 1 or 2 teams, I would understand it, but 8 teams? 8 different teams, 8 different cars had a left rear tire going flat. So don't give me this fucking bullshit that, oh, it's all on the teams. No, at some point, we need to start pointing the finger at Goodyear because they're the ones that are making the fucking tires. And it's been well documented in the past how fucking shit Goodyear's tires have a tendency to be. And let's not forget, their exclusivity contract with NASCAR is up at the end of this year. So, yeah, they need to get their fucking shit together, before they start, thinking about, hey, let's, get ready to sign a new contract with NASCAR. No, fuck that. Maybe it's time to bring a different manufacturer in, because it's pretty obvious that Goodyear can't make a tire worth a fuck. I mean, we've known about this for decades at this point. And then there were the other crazy events that went on in this race. It just made this race, without a doubt, one of the weirdest races all year. Well, I take that back. This was the weirdest race of the year. In fact, I would say this is probably the weirdest race of the decade, just based on all the shit that happened in this race. Like, it is insanity. I mean, did it make it entertaining? Certainly it did. Even if the racing product wasn't completely up to par in certain points, we did get a pretty good battle at the end, though, so there was that as well. But that's my opening rant. I want to try to get through this as quickly as possible because I'm not feeling too good, as you can tell. So let's go ahead and get started with News of the Week because there's a lot to get to. As I switch the screen transition. Let's go. So obviously we start out with the viewership from last week, and there just seemed to be this big ass debate on Twitter because the Formula One race in Miami was going on at the exact same time, started at the exact same time. And there was a lot of debate as to whether or not, did F1 win the weekend or did NASCAR and this, that, and the other. And it just gets to the point where it's like, who fucking cares, man? I mean, as long as people are watching motorsports, who cares? I mean, seriously. But Darlington pulled in 2.614 million viewers. And let's not forget, this was on FS1. So I mean, for a race that was as big as Throwback Weekend at Darlington, I mean, you would think they would put this one on the main channel. And yet they opted to put it on FS1. So, I mean, it really makes me wonder if they would have had better viewership. And I know they would have had better viewership, especially since it was Throwback Weekend. I mean, they would have had a shit ton more viewership if they would have put it on the main channel. So it just boggles my mind as to why Fox would do that. But then again, Fox Sports fucking sucks enough as it is. But basically, when you compare the two, NASCAR had a 1.45 rating, 2.614 million viewers. What a lot of people were taking into consideration and saying, and where this argument kind of came into being was the 18 to 49 demographic, which is kind of an important thing for broadcast networks. NASCAR had 517,000 viewers in that demographic watch the race on last Sunday, whereas you had the Miami Grand Prix, which was watched by on average 2 million viewers, 2.066 million viewers, but their 18 to 49 demographic was 735,000. So they beat NASCAR in terms of the 18 to 49 demographic, even though NASCAR beat Formula One in terms of overall viewership. I mean, at the end of the day, it's win-win for motorsports because, I mean, when you take all that into consideration, there was almost 5 million people watching motorsports last Sunday. So who fucking cares? I mean, why do we have to make a big argument out of this? I mean, can't we just, celebrate the fact that we have almost 5 million people watching motorsports last Sunday? I mean, professional wrestling would kill to have those kind of numbers today. They used to get those kind of numbers. Especially WWE. They used to pull in 3, 4, 5 million people on a weekly basis. Now, their flagship show, Monday Night Raw, they can't even at times barely pull in 1.5 million viewers. They would kill to have the number of viewers that NASCAR is getting right now. And, that's just how I feel about that. So, let's just move on. Some exciting news in the Busch household this week. On May the 10th, Lennox Key Busch was born at 5:12 a.m. She was 6 pounds 1 ounces and was born at 20 inches in height. Now this is a well-documented story, but Samantha Busch, who's Kyle Busch's wife, has long had infertility issues. They've been trying to basically get a sibling because they already have one son, but Samantha has always had infertility issues. So in this case, they had to go to a surrogate who basically went to term and everything else, and was born on May the 10th, which was 5 days ago, at 5:12 a.m. in the morning. So congratulations to Samantha and Kyle Busch on their new baby daughter. Next up, a bit of a surprising headline here. ThorSport wins their appeal over Crafton's Darlington disqualification. So this is on NASCAR.NBCSports.com, what we're going to be talking about here. But the appeals panel overturns Matt Crafton's Darlington disqualification. Now, originally, Matt Crafton had finished 5th, but was disqualified after post-race and tech due to Matt Crafton's truck being too low in the front. So, let's take a look at this and see what this says. The National Motorsports Appeals Panel overturned a disqualification issued to Matt Crafton on Thursday following his 5th place finish at Darlington. Crafton's number 88 ThorSport Racing Toyota was disqualified after NASCAR officials deemed the vehicle was too low in the front, which violated section 14.17.3.2.1.2.a post-qualifying and post-race front body inspection heights of the NASCAR rulebook, which states that the truck must measure at a minimum height of 5.5 inches. The team was stripped of its 5th place finish and stage points and was credited with last place. On Thursday, the panel of Mr. Dixon Johnston, Mr. Tom DeLoach, and Mr. Hunter Nickel heard the team's testimony and determined the appellants did not violate the rules set forth in the penalty notice. Crafton will be officially credited with a 5th place finish in addition to having his stage finishes restored. 9th in Stage 1 and 7th in Stage 2. With a total of 38 points scored, Crafton will move to 10th in points, 81 markers behind series leader Ben Rhodes. This is big for a couple reasons. First of all, if the disqualification would have stayed, Crafton would have been credited with just 1 point for that entire race due to that disqualification. But because they managed to get the disqualification overturned, Crafton gets his stage points back, which he got 9th in Stage 1, which is 2 points, 7th in Stage 2, which is 4 points, and then he finished 5th in the race as a whole, giving him a total of 38 points. That's 37 more points than he would have originally scored had the disqualification stayed, which is big if you consider the fact that this moves him back up to 10th in points. And I think I almost said Craftsman Truck Series because that's what it had been for a long time. But the Camping World Truck Series, I think, only takes 10 drivers into the playoffs. So, I mean, those 37 points that he got back could mean the difference between him making the playoff and not making the playoff. So, pretty big deal here as far as Matt Crafton is concerned. And I completely misspelled that. Let me fix that because apparently I'm dyslexic. Didn't even realize it, but there we go. Daniel Dye has been reinstated by NASCAR, or well, technically by NASCAR, but also by ARCA. Of course, like I said before, last week, this was a developing story. So, last week, Daniel Dye was arrested and charged with assault after hitting a fellow student at his school in the groin. And police were called to the scene. He was arrested and charged with a felony assault, and as a result, he was suspended indefinitely by ARCA. Well, ARCA has reinstated Daniel Dye and raced this weekend, and here was his statement. Well, this is part of his statement. The past few weeks have been emotionally difficult for me and my family, to say the least. You might have heard that I was recently arrested by local police and subsequently suspended by ARCA. I have been overwhelmed by the support of fellow classmates, teachers, and others who have reached out to me following an incident with a fellow student at my high school. I am happy to report that ARCA has dropped its suspension after the state's attorney reviewed the case and subsequent reduced charge to a misdemeanor. I am eager to get back to racing and looking forward to piloting the number 43 Chevrolet SS this weekend at Kansas Speedway. Before I get back to racing, I think it is important to explain what happened that led local police officers to take me into custody. The facts are that me and my classmates have been engaged in a silly and admittedly immature game commonly played at the school between boys and involves hitting each other in the groin area. This has been going on since we were in the 9th grade. The other student got me, and then I got him back. I want to be very clear that nobody was trying to seriously injure anyone in the game, and I'm relieved to know that the other student has recovered. Basically, he's talking about bag tag. It's a very common game that happens in schools, and it's been happening for years. So the fact that this got, police involved is kind of crazy. So, I mean, it is what it is. The charge was reduced to a misdemeanor, so, I think it's a lesson learned in his case, especially since, he was second in points before he got suspended. So, hopefully this is a lesson learned for him, not to do that kind of shit, especially when, you're trying to make it into the NASCAR ranks, maybe try to make it into the truck series next year or something like that. So, if I was him, I would try to avoid this kind of shit whenever possible. Next up, do we have a new OEM joining NASCAR soon? This kind of caught a lot of people's attention, and it's like, ooh, who are we getting? Now, for those of you that don't know what OEM means, it's Original Equipment Manufacturer. In other words, an organization that makes devices from component parts bought from other organizations. This was reported on May the 14th, it looks like. Adam Stern posted this on his Twitter, and it's on MopartInsiders.com, at least this article is. NASCAR COO says a new OEM is close to the finish line about joining the sport. Are we about to have a fourth manufacturer in NASCAR soon? So let's go ahead and read this article. For the past 9 years, there have been rumors on and off about the Dodge brand. Ooh, Dodge may be making a return to NASCAR competition. After winning the NASCAR Cup Series championship with Penske Racing in 2012, Dodge abandoned the sport after the team dropped the automaker and made a switch to the 6th generation of stock car. This was due to Dodge refusing to sign a multi-year extension with Penske and instead wanted to do a year-by-year contract. Rumors have swirled over the past several years that Dodge had been talking to RCR since 2013 about a Cup Series return. The rumors fired up again about 3 years ago when it was announced that Richard Petty Motorsports, which was who has a huge history with the Dodge brand, was forming an alliance with RCR to produce its cars, but nothing came of it. Rumors of Dodge's return to Cup have been growing throughout the NASCAR world after the announcement that three-time Cup champion and current Cup owner Tony Stewart would field two NHRA entries with Dodge Mopar factory support. In November, NASCAR President Steve Phelps held a State of the Sport address to inform the public about the direction NASCAR is heading towards going into the 2022 season. Taking questions, Phelps was asked about recent rumors about Dodge and other manufacturers entering the sport. Our three existing OEMs are happy about that, Phelps said. Our race teams are happy about that. We're happy about that. It's been widely rumored that Dodge is one of those or closest. I won't confirm or deny that. It is important. We made no bones about the fact that we want to have a new OEM in our sports. I think we got delayed with the pandemic. With that said, we are in an attractive place, I believe, for OEMs to come into the sport. Now is an important opportunity for them to do that because of the next-gen car. I also believe the fact that the sport is growing and has a relevance that it hasn't had in decades and is causing some real interest from other OEMs. But in recent days, as reported by EssentiallySports.com, NASCAR's Chief Operating Officer, Steve O'Donnell, suggested a fourth manufacturer may be announced very soon. We are in daily dialogue with one OEM in particular that's close to the finish line, depending on who you ask. It'll be terrific for the sport if we can get that, but I think ideally if we could ever get to 5, that'd be awesome. O'Donnell explained the main reason for NASCAR's switch to the next-gen car was because of electrification, a movement that the Dodge brand is currently getting ready to embrace with the launch of its all-new 2023 Dodge Hornet PHEV later, PHEV, I don't know if that's actually what it says or how it's pronounced, and the next generation Dodge Charger LF and Dodge Challenger LB, which will debut in 2024. It was part of the reason we went to the next gen platform was to drive interest. As you know, there's a huge push for electrification, and where that's going and how would that fit in for where our platform is. So that's one of the reasons. We're open to that as well to attract new OEMs. With Dodge looking to unveil a concept version of its all-new electrified e-muscle car in August, it could be a great time to announce a return to NASCAR auto racing. Considering that the next-gen car is moving towards electrification at about the same time that the electrified next-generation Dodge Challenger BEV will start to reach dealers, it may be one of the greatest marketing ploys for the performance brand in recent years. And looks like this article was written by Robert S. Miller. So, Dodge may be making a return to NASCAR after a decade away. That'd be interesting. But of course, this is a developing story, and we'll keep an eye on it as it develops. Next up, Goodyear notes the increased load on the left rear tire. This is from the Goodyear Tire Notes. This was posted up by Bob Pockris from the Goodyear Tire Notes this week, sent to media about the loads on the left rear. Storyline: left rear corner of the next-gen car taking on more significance. A lot has changed for NASCAR Cup teams with this new next-gen car. One of the more significant impacts has been the amount of loading on the left rear corner of the car. There are two basic reasons for that. The independent rear suspension on the car and the aerodynamic balance has shifted more to the rear of the car. Because of that, teams need to be more aware of the air pressure levels in the left rear tire. Goodyear has responded to that by recommending 2 psi more in the left rear tire than the left front for many tracks this season, including this week's stop at Kansas Speedway. Greg Stucker says the amount of air pressure in the tire should directly correlate to the amount of load on that corner of the car. If the amount of load increases like it has excuse me, on the left rear of this next-gen car, you need to increase the load carrying capability in that tire, which is done via air pressure. If you run below our recommended pressures, the tire can over-deflect, sustain damage, and result in an air loss. Or you could just make a better tire. I mean, there's that. And then finally, Joey Logano is a clueless douchebag. Because, I mean, this guy just doesn't fucking get it. He really doesn't. Bob Pockris interviewed him this weekend, I believe on Friday, asking about, the whole William Byron situation at Darlington, and his response, I mean, as Eric Estep said in his video that he posted, I think yesterday, he is a walking double standard. I mean, it's okay if he punts people out of the way, but when people do the same thing to him, it's bullying and all that other bullshit that he tries to spew. So, here is the video of his interview, and well, let's just say I wanted to puke in my mouth after I watched this video. So here it is.
I think what happened last week happened, right? I got fenced. I stand by the same stuff I said last week. I got fenced. I retaliated and won the race. So that's kind of, like I said last week, that's kind of how it works. I won't get pushed around. So in my book, we're back to even, and we reset and go again.
And if his book is not back to even, I mean, first off, does that concern you? I know it hasn't in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly.
All right, 1 second. Let me restart this because that's a little loud. My apologies. All right, let's try this again. Once more with feeling.
What happened last week happened, right? I got fenced. I stand by the same stuff I said last week. I got fenced. I retaliated, won the race. So that's kind of, like I said last week, that's kind of how it works. I won't get pushed around. So in my book, we're back to even. And we reset and go again.
And if his book is not back to even, first off, does that concern you? I know it hasn't in the past.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, if he wants to keep going back and forth, I'll keep swinging. I don't think that's a good play for him in the long run. I'm not going to, like I said, I feel like he was willing to take the lead in a way. I was willing to take the lead back the same way. So he can keep going, but I can promise you I'll keep going and I'll go bigger every time. I think,
I'll keep going and I'll go bigger every time. You see this image that's on the screen right now? This is probably the most punchable face in NASCAR at the moment. Like, it just boggles my mind how fucking clueless this guy is. I mean, this guy just doesn't fucking get it. He doesn't understand why he gets booed every week. He doesn't understand why other drivers get pissed at him. I mean, you would think that he would have learned his lesson after 2015 when Kenseth junked his fucking shit at Martinsville and took him out of the championship hunt. I mean, is he honestly trying to get his ass kicked? I mean, he's not backing down. I mean, that's all fine and dandy, but I mean, holy shit. I mean, you want to talk about a case of giving it, but, not being able to take it. I mean, what a fucking puss bag this guy is. It just... Oh my god. I mean, I personally want to punch this guy in the fucking mouth myself. I mean... Like... I mean, you want to talk about a complete lack of self-awareness. Like, this guy just doesn't fucking get it. But you know what? That's fine, because you know what they say, Logano, karma's a bitch. And that was case in point this weekend when he crashed in practice, and then during the race, he was pretty much a fucking non-factor for the entirety of the race. Which is fine by me. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he can stay at the back for the rest of eternity, for all I fucking care. The guy's a fucking idiot. That's all I have to say. I mean, if he's that fucking clueless, then, one of these days, his stupid ass driving is going to get someone killed. Or at the very least, seriously injured, which it has happened before. Because I remember a race at Auto Club, he was racing for the win, basically wrecked Hamlin trying to do it, and Hamlin ended up with a broken back. And had to miss a race because of it. And Logano, as usual, tried to play the fucking victim. What a fucking douchebag, dude. I mean, he is once again at the top of my shit list, and it shouldn't be any wonder why. This guy's a fucking idiot. But with that out of the way, that's it for news of the week. Quite a bit of news this week. And let's go ahead and get into the race review itself. So, get my notes ready here. Alright, so 2022 AdventHealth 400 at Kansas Speedway. So, stages broke down like this. Title of this episode, Friday the 13th, was this weekend, and there's a reason why I put that as the title of this video, because of the crazy shit that happened in this race. So stages broke down like this. Stage 1, 80 laps. Stage 2, 85 laps. And Stage 3, 102 laps. So, We had 4 guys that had to go to the rear of the field. Hamlin had to go to the rear of the field. Logano, Buescher, and Stenhouse all either crashed in practice or had unapproved adjustments. Alright, so stage 1, 80 laps. Christopher Bell starts on the pole, which is his third pole of the season, and it's also the third pole of his career. So there you go. Bell leads lap 1. There was lots of shuffling in the bottom half of the top 10. Kyle Busch gets by brother Kurt for 5th, and we have our first caution on lap 6. Before we get into that, much to my surprise, NASCAR elected not to do a competition caution in this race, despite the fact that they had severe thunderstorms this morning, washed all the rubber off the racetrack, but NASCAR elected not to do a competition caution, which was kind of surprising to say the least. But anywho, we get our first caution on lap 6. Chase Briscoe spins off turn 4 after getting loose on the outside. It takes a right to the grass, but doesn't hit anything. So he leads on the restart. Bell gets tight in turns 1 and 2 and loses 3 spots. Reddick gets to the lead on the restart. Justin Haley and Cole Custer make contact off turn 4, which pushes Custer into the wall, but both drivers keep going. We got a battle for second between Larson, Bell, and Kyle Busch. Logano was super loose at this point, was about to go a lap down, which made me go lol. Larson challenges Reddick for the lead as they approach back markers, and he actually made the pass in turns 3 and 4, but right before he got to the line, for it to count as our first pure lead change, the fucking caution comes out on lap 35 when BJ McLeod spins in the tri-oval after the first of what would be many left rear tire failures. At the same time, Chris Buescher had to make an emergency stop, and that negated the pure lead change. So there you go. And that caution also saved Logano's sorry ass. Everyone comes in for service. Bell wins the race off pit road. Larson lost 9 spots. And then Haley's left rear wheel comes off, and there was a lot of fire in that left rear. It turned out he had an electrical issue that would ultimately put him out of the race. And boy, this race saw probably the most penalties of any race of this season. There were lots of penalties on this stop. Hamlin for equipment interference, Austin Dillon for equipment leaving the box, and Cindric for an uncontrolled tire. Yeah. This will not be the last of it, though. So Bell leads on the restart. Lots of 3 wide on the restart. The restarts were pretty good, as per the usual. Chastain gets by Suarez for 3rd. The Watermelon Man was coming towards the front once again. He is having a season right now. Elliott makes a bonsai pass on Harvick and Blaney on the front stretch. Hold on, sneeze alert. False alarm. That was quite the pass that Elliott made. Then we get our 3rd caution on lap 62 when Daniel Suarez loses the left rear tire and spins and crashes in turn 4. That's 2 for the race so far. And there were 3 in practice, so that makes 5 left rear tires. And I was like, and then, under caution, Bell, who was leading the race, by the way, he also has a left rear tire go flat. So now the count is up to 6 for the weekend. And, you know, Greg Stucker, who is basically the head guy for Goodyear's racing division, you know, in the midst of all of these left rears going down, this is the left rear tire that's going to be used at Texas next week for the All-Star race. And he's like, given what we know about tire engineering, materials we use, the placement of components, its ability to carry load, its ability to perform, provide the grip that it needs, we feel like it's a match. Not if this race is any indication. I mean, Goodyear seems to be about as fucking clueless as Logano at this point. So, this is just stupid at this point. So, everyone comes in for service. Eric Jones gambles and takes just 2 tires on this stop. Stenhouse stays out and leads on the restart. There were a couple others that stayed out. but Kyle Busch powers through to the lead on the restart with 4 fresh tires. There was 4 wide inside the top 10 on this restart. Chastain moves up to second. We have a battle for ninth between Blaney, Bowman, and Hamlin, and Kyle Busch wins stage number 1. Bowman edges Hamlin for the final stage point. Everyone comes in for service. Elliott initially wins the race off pit road, but we actually had 2 more penalties. Bubba Wallace is penalized for his crew being over the wall too soon, and this would not be the last time that Wallace's crew would screw him over. And Elliott and Hamlin also had to go to the rear of the field for equipment interference. Basically, the tire or piece of equipment getting away and causing interference in another pit box. And then another bit of weirdness happens, and this is something that I have never seen before. Eric Jones's crew cannot get the right rear tire off. Like, they keep trying to put the air gun in and trying to get the lug off, but they can't do it. As it turned out, it was cross-threaded, and that's why they couldn't get it off. And the air gun that they were using ended up breaking because it just wouldn't come off. I mean, this reminds me of what happened, I believe, at Monaco last year. It's either last year or the year before, where Valtteri Bottas was, I think, running second, came in for a pit stop, and the crew could not get one of the tires off because it was cross-threaded, and Bottas had to retire from the race because of it, from a podium spot. And this honestly felt like kind of a mirror image of this. And we're going to be getting back to this in a minute, because they eventually just went with they had to go with 3 new tires on the old right rear. We'll come back to this story in a minute. Chastain leads on the start of stage 2. There was 3 wide for the lead between Byron, Chastain, and Truex. Larson scrapes the wall, which was like the first of like 4 times that he scraped the wall. Chastain and Reddick battle for second, while the Busch brothers fight for 5th. We have a battle for third between Reddick, Truex, and Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch gets by Chastain for second. Reddick, with a lot of trash on the grill, gets loose in turn 1. I think that kind of affected the balance of his car, which is probably why he got loose in the turn. Can't see it right now, but one of my cats is wanting some attention. Silly ass. Anyways, where was I? And then Byron, who is leading the race at this point, because he got the lead on the restart, he has a left rear tire go down. So that's 4 in this race and 7 overall. And this time from the lead of the race. And then Reddick hits the wall again, except this time it's a right rear going down, but it was mainly from him hitting the wall. Unbelievably, we stay green. We stay green throughout all of this. Then, through all of this shenanigans, Kurt Busch has inherited the race lead. Truex kicks off green flag stops in lap 125. Then it was reported that Almirola had dropped a cylinder. And then, right in the middle of green flag pit stops, we get our 4th caution on lap 127 when Kevin Harvick spins coming off of pit road, which completely fucks over pretty much everybody who had made green flag pit stops, well, to a certain extent, because there were several that had went a lap down. And because of the fact that this came out in the middle of green flag pit stops, NASCAR had to spend several laps getting the order sorted out, so the pit road remained closed for like 5 laps. And while this was all going on, we get treated to basically a show of Eric Jones's crew trying to get that damn right rear tire off. They were resorting to using Sawzalls. They had a fucking big bar. I forget what they called it, but it's basically a bar with a lug wrench at the end of it that they could use to put some more torque into it. They even used like what looked like a fucking industrial-sized air gun, which looked like the type of air gun that you would use to take lug nuts off of a fucking semi-truck tire. You know, they were doing that shit. And then they broke out the fucking grinder to try to get that damn lug off. And then they also eventually had to fucking cut the rim of the wheel to try to get access to cut the damn lug off. And finally, they were able to do it. And they interviewed the tire guy that was able to do it. He looks like a fucking Viking, you know, with his long beard and everything. When they finally got it done, he was like, yeah! I mean, you want to talk about a crazy set of circumstances for that 43 team. I mean, I know it's frustrating because they lost so many laps doing it, but holy shit. I've certainly never seen anything like that. As we're in stage 2, so I gotta turn that on. But what a fucking crazy turn of events, man. Like, unreal. So, like I said, NASCAR takes for friggin' hour to sort the scoring out. Those who stayed out on the until the caution came out would pit under this caution. Kurt Busch actually managed to stay on the lead lap through all this. Stays out, leads on the restart. Blaney and Kurt were side by side for the lead. Blaney actually led a lap, but then Kurt managed to get the lead back on the next lap for our first pure lead change on lap 138. So we have a great battle for the lead between the Busch brothers and Blaney for a little bit. And then Truex loses a left rear tire with 2 laps left in stage 2. So that brings our count up to, what, 8 now? 8 left rear tires this weekend. And Kurt Busch wins stage number 2. Everyone comes in for service, and Kurt Busch wins the race off pit road. So now we come to stage number 3, which was 102 laps. Kyle Busch gets caught speeding on pit road, so he has to come from the rear. Kurt Busch leads the start of stage 3. Blaney and Busch are side by side for a lap as they are 3 wide, 5 rows deep behind them. Larson gets by Blaney for second. Wallace gets a 2-piece on Stenhouse and Logano for 8th, which was a really nice move. Cindric bounces off the wall into Bowman, but both continue on. We never got to see a replay. I mean, we heard it from the announcers, but no replay. Fox Sports fucking sucks. Larson starts challenging Kurt for the race lead, and then we get to what might be the save of the year so far. Larson does the slide job on Kurt in turns 1 and 2, but then that car gets way loose. I mean, sideways loose. I mean, you can see it in the fucking thumbnail that I put for this review. That car is gone. I mean, that car should have been around. I honestly thought he was around, but the right rear touches the wall, and he's able to torque that thing the opposite direction and somehow saves the son of a bitch. I'm like, holy shit. I mean, if you have any doubts about Kyle Larson not being a wheelman, you have no argument at this point. You have none. Kyle Larson may be one of the best drivers of this generation. I mean, we've seen how if these cars get sideways, like really sideways, it's damn near impossible to recover. And Larson just pulled it off. Yes, he had a little bit of help from the wall, but even with the wall's help, that car was so damn sideways, you could read the right side door number from the infield. That's how sideways he was. And this with Kurt Busch right on his ass. You know, I'm pretty sure Kurt had a fire suit full of shit at this point. He probably shit himself watching Larson get loose like that. And he's probably thinking, oh, fuck, I'm going to be taken out in another wreck down my own doing again. And Larson just, I don't know how the fuck he saved that car. Like, that car should have been wrecked on the fucking hauler, heading home early. and he somehow fucking saved that car. It was unreal. And then he reported later that his right rear feels like it's on fire. Well, yeah, I mean, you burn the fuck out of it going drift king through turn 2, but I mean, considering the alternative, yeah, without a doubt, the save of the year so far. Hamlin gets by Larson for second. Then we got our 5th caution on lap 197 when Chase Elliott loses the left rear tire and basically goes tornado mode down into the infield. So blown tire count at this point is at 9. I'm not left rear tires for the weekend is at 9 at this point. No excuse. I mean, people want to keep giving Goodyear the benefit of the doubt, but fuck that. We need to start holding them accountable for their bullshit tires. And then, as if this fucking race couldn't get any weirder. Okay, we already had, the whole lugnut deal with the 43 team. We have all these left rear tires going flat. We have all these penalties on pit road. And somehow this race just gets fucking weirder. Okay, bear in mind, it had rained. There was a torrential downpour, severe thunderstorm this morning in Kansas over the Kansas Speedway. So the infield is about as muddy as can be. Of course, Chase is going to get stuck down in the infield because 1, the car is low center of gravity because these things are fucking low riders, and 2, he has a flat left rear, so he's stuck in the grass. He keeps asking for a push. He wants to get a push out of there. The tow truck, as he is trying to get lined up to push Chase out of the grass, gets stuck in the fucking mud. And I'm just like, what in the fuck is going on? What in the actual fuck is going on in this race? Like, I was watching that. I was just in total disbelief. Like, I could see the tow truck's fucking wheels spinning in the mud. He wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't pushing Chase out of that grass at any point. And I just started fucking laughing my ass off. Like, it got to the point where I got lightheaded. I was laughing so damn hard. Like, oh my god. Like, how can you have this many fucking weird occurrences happen in the same damn race? I mean, I guess it makes sense considering that Friday the 13th was this past Friday. So, I mean, oh Lord. I mean, at this point, you just can't help but laugh because that was funny as shit. But that was just the kind of race this was. Everyone comes in for service. Kurt Busch wins the race off pit road, and this is when the 23 pit crew I mean, Denny Hamlin just needs to blow up that team, that pit crew, and start from scratch, because this is twice in the same race that Wallace gets hit with a penalty. Hey, Coda. Still in my Kansas review, which this race was fucking weird, as I've already stated. But this is when it was a total meltdown with that 23 team, because Bubba was running 5th, had a good car, really good car. And for the second time in this race, his crew lets him down, which isn't the first time it's happened this year. He gets penalized for an uncontrolled tire, and Bubba was extremely furious on the radio. In fact, in the next pit stop, he was like, "Do your fucking job!" Like, I mean, I honestly can't blame him for being so upset, because, I mean, he's doing his job out there. You know, he's running top 5, you know, having one of the best runs of his season, and the crew just completely fucks him over. For the second time this race. Even Denny Hamlin was starting to get pretty pissed off. So, there might be a couple people on that pit crew that might not have jobs after this weekend. Just saying. And Harvick also has to go to the rear of the field for speeding, as well as Truex. So, Kurt Busch leads on the restart. Larson is able to make the pass, but Busch comes back with the crossover. Then Blaney tries to go 3 wide into turns 3 and 4, gets loose, almost gets up into Larson. I hear all the time do your fucking job. Blast my ass off. Well, yeah, but this was during today's race. I mean, he basically shouted that over the radio. Which, I mean, you can't blame him, because, I mean, if you're doing your job and your pit crew keeps fucking you over, I mean, how else are you going to react? You know, I mean, there comes a time when, you know, you just got to say enough is enough. I mean, this is not the first time that Wallace's pit crew has basically fucked him when he's had a good run. And for it to happen twice in the same damn race for 2 different reasons, I mean, eventually you just gotta say enough's enough. And like I said, I would not be the least bit surprised if there are some people on that pit crew that don't have jobs after this weekend. So in the meantime, on this restart, Blaney tries to go 3 wide with both Kurt and Larson, gets way loose. Larson leads the first couple of laps after the restart, but then he smacks the wall coming off of turn 4. With the old car, that would have resulted in a flat tire. Easily. But Larson not only continues, but he continues fighting for the race win. But we get our second pure lead change on lap 204. Kyle Busch gets by Blaney for 5th and then by Hamlin for 4th. So, yep. Especially, yeah, the pit crew always needs to be on the top of their game. Absolutely. Because as competitive as these teams are, I mean, a lot of them have gotten a handle on this new single lug tire. And, I mean, when you have pit stops that are damn near, in some cases, under 10 seconds, which is absolute insanity, you know, and when races can come down to, you know, literally tenths of a second, I mean, that's magnified on pit road. You know, so any mistake, even if it's a small one on pit road, can literally cost you the race win. Like, you could literally go from leading the race, even if it's the smallest mistake, you could lose like 4 or 5 spots. I mean, that's how close these teams are. And it also shows, I mean, if you want proof and how competitive this series is right now, this is the 13th race of the season. We've had 11 different winners. I mean, we had a lot of different winners last year, but we're seeing the same thing this year. I mean, no one driver seems to be breaking away from the pack right now. We've had 11 different winners in 13 races this year. The only 2 guys that have had multiple wins is William Byron and Ross Chastain. Those are the only 2 guys, and they're not even the ones leading the points right now. Yeah. So everybody needs to be on top of their game. Driver, pit crew, crew chief, the whole 9 yards. Because right now, this series is just too damn competitive to have silly mistakes like this. So, absolutely. But, where was I? I lost my spot. Larson has to check up and loses 2 spots to both Bell and Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch gets by Larson and Bell to move up to 2nd, so it's the Busch brothers 1-2 at this point. With 45 laps to go, Larson gets by Bell for 3rd. Apparently Harvick got way loose. Apparently there was some fluid coming out of his car, so NASCAR decided to throw the caution on lap 230 as a safety measure. And thankfully that was our final caution of the day. So everyone comes in for service. Kyle Busch wins the race off pit road, and you would think, well, I mean, if he gets out in front, it's going to be over, but turned out not to be the case. We got the final restart. So I think the final run of race, let's see, what was the last green flag run? The average green flag run was 24.4 laps. The last run of race was 33 laps. So, thank God. But Kyle Larson takes the lead on the restart. Hamlin gets by Bell for 4th. Then we have a battle for the lead between Larson and the Busch brothers. They were basically all right there together. Kurt gets by Kyle for 2nd rather easily. He got to his inside, and Kyle just seemed to let him go. Almost like he knew that, Kurt was going to do the dive bomb and he'd rather not. I mean, if he wasn't going to win the race, it seemed like he didn't want to fuck up his brother's chance to win the race, because it definitely looked like Kurt had the faster car. I mean, he definitely looked like he had the best car all day. I mean, he led the most laps. So, but now he was in chase mode, trying to track down Kyle Larson. Truex was up to 7th at this point, recovering nicely from his speeding penalty. Kurt starts closing in on Larson for the race lead, and the battle is on, coming to 10 laps to go. And then on lap 2, number 60, is when the move finally happens. Kurt gets to Larson's inside, and they're side by side for the race lead. Hey, sissy. And then going into turns 1 and 2, they're side by side, and they're closing in on some back markers at this point. And Kurt kind of slides up the track, trying to do the slide job, basically trying to repeat what Larson tried to do earlier. And he's right there, and Larson tries to squeeze in between Kurt and the wall. There's no contact between the two. Let's make this perfectly clear. There was no contact between the two of them. So even though Kurt tried to slide up, he's trying to complete the pass here. He's trying to pull the slide job, like Larson tried to do. Larson tried to gas it up on the outside of turns 1 and 2 and goes wall riding. And Kurt gets to the lead. Larson hits the wall for like the 4th or 5th time, but again, no flat tires. I mean, that is a testament to how tough this new car is. With the old car, with the previous gen car, that would be a flat tire all day, every day. But Larson hit the wall like 4 times, and that car was still trucking. I mean, if you want to talk about a feat of engineering, there you go. And the rest of the laps were basically a formality as he drives away and scores the win in the Advent 400 after a thrilling battle with Kyle Larson. And then after the race, and this is something that Joey Logano himself needs to learn, Larson actually got out and was all smiles. He was celebrating with the crew. He was congratulating them on a job well done. Even though he had lost the race, finished 2nd, he had a smile on his face, and he even said, that was a good race. And he likes that kind of racing, where you're fighting hard for the win. And he even said there was no contact between them. I was just trying to stay on his outside, and I put it in the wall, No regrets. Cat, quit messing with the mouse. I know that's the natural way that you do things, but it's not the actual mouse. So quit, shithead. But, yeah, a lot of respect between Larson and Kurt on that deal. Larson was like, yeah, I mean, that was a good race. What else can you say? Racing hard and going for the win. Larson, I mean, understands, the whole deal. And so does Kurt. Logano just doesn't seem to understand that, nor does he seem like he cares, and that's the big problem that I have with him. So, there you go. And then, afterwards, of course, Denny Hamlin, even though he had finished 4th, I mean, he was over the moon because one of his cars got to victory lane, this time with Kurt. And, of course, they've been competitors for a long-ass time. Kurt's been in the Cup Series since 2000. Hamlin's been in the Cup Series since 2006. So they've been competitors against each other for a long time. And now Kurt's driving for Denny's team. And, well, I mean, Hamlin felt like he won the race himself. And then the show of respect that a lot of different drivers showed to Kurt was unreal. You had Denny, of course. Then you had brother Kyle coming over. I mean, he was smiling. Like, how often do you see Kyle smiling even though he didn't win the race? So I'm pretty sure he was happy for his brother too. Because, Kurt got there, made the pass clean, won the race, and it's a big deal. Because this is yet another different race team, that he's, this is a brand new team basically. This is only its 2nd season, and hey, look at that. They now have their 2nd win. Of course, Bubba Wallace won at Talladega last year in the fall. So, but Kurt gets another win. This is his 34th career win, which means he is 25th on the all-time list in career wins. And he just continues to get at least one win a year. It doesn't matter what race team it is, whether it be, for Roush, which he started his career with, Penske, Ganassi, and now with 2311. And he's won with all the manufacturers. He won with Dodge when he was with Penske, and won with Ford when he was with Roush, won with Chevy when he was with Ganassi, and now he's won with Toyota with 2311 Racing. And then afterwards, there were a couple other drivers that congratulated him as well. Reddick congratulated him. Chastain came over, a little victory splash with some water and congratulated him as well. I mean, it was a big deal. It really was. Before we get into other things, let me check something here. See, a tech inspection has been completed before we continue on here. Of course, this was also the first time that Jordan has actually sponsored the car as well with his Nike brand, or his Jordan brand. So they had a special scheme this week on the 45, kind of commemorating that with leopard, or I think it's leopard print. I think is what it is. But official inspection is complete with no issues. So Kurt Busch is officially your AdventHealth 400 winner at Kansas Speedway. So it is official. It is official. But yeah, so huge congratulations to Kurt Busch and the 2311 team. Of course, all the attention has been on Trackhouse and Ross Chastain and how they're setting the NASCAR world on fire. And for Kurt Busch and 2311 to come through and get a victory here at Kansas, dominate the race, led the most laps, come back to beat Larson for the race win. I mean, that's all that can be said. So this was a weird race, but it was definitely a solid race, to be sure. So with that out of the way, let's take a look at your stats and awards for today's race. Total laps, so it's a 267 lap race, 80, 85, and 102. We had 18 overall late changes in this race, only 3 pure lead changes, which is a bit of a disappointment. But we only had 6 total cautions, 3 of which was in the first stage. And we had 2,167 green flag passes, which comes out to an average of 9.9, basically 10 passes per green flag lap, which is a little bit less than Darlington. But, I mean, the race was still pretty solid overall. So, lap leader driver, your lap leader award goes to Kurt Busch. He led 116 of the race's 267 laps. Star of the race. I normally try my hardest not to pick the winner of the race because typically, while the winner of the race does a great job and winning the race and all that good stuff, I mean, it's too easy of a pick, to always pick the winner of the race as the star of the race. I usually try to pick drivers who, do great things, and all that good stuff. I mean, I could easily pick Kyle Larson for that batshit crazy save, but let's be real here. I mean, considering the circumstances, I mean, it has to be Kurt Busch. I mean, it's very rare. Like I said, it's very rare that I pick a winner of the race as also the star of the race because I also want to highlight other drivers who did good. But let's be honest here. Considering how shitty the past month has been for Kurt, getting involved in wrecks not of his own doing, then for that team to turn around, come to Kansas, dominate the race, and win it, with a brand new paint scheme, and all the scrutiny that they've been under. Why is 2311 not performing as well as Trackhouse right now? For them to come through and pull out the victory like they did, I mean, Kurt has to be the star of the race at this point. He has to be, because I mean, he had to beat both his brother and Kyle Larson. Two very proven drivers in the past couple years. I mean, hell, Kyle Busch doesn't have a sponsor for next year at the moment to run the full season, which is just absolutely fucking insane when you consider the fact that Kyle's third in points. And he's been running up front week after week. You're telling me they can't find a fucking sponsor? Like, what the fuck? And of course, Kyle Larson, he's the defending champion. I mean, what else do I need to say other than that? So for Kurt and the 23 team to come through and get this win tonight, big deal. Reject of the race. It should be pretty fucking obvious who the reject of the race is. Goodyear. How in the fuck do you have 9 left rears blow out? And don't give me this low air pressure bullshit. Don't be fucking blaming all the teams for this, because, I mean, if it was 1 or 2, then maybe. 9? I'd be pointing the finger somewhere else, and I'm pointing at a Goodyear, because this is not the first time we've had this kind of fucking debacle with tires. This is a thing that just seems to come up every other year with this shit, and it's just, I'm so fucking sick and tired of Goodyear fucking things up. I mean, there was one guy on Twitter that said, if Pirelli has a blowout, it's an international incident. When 63 Goodyears blow out in a weekend, then it's considered tough shit for the teams, and it's not an acceptable standard. And I agree. We need to start holding Goodyear accountable for their shit-ass construction. That's all I gotta say. Race results and point standings for the AdventHealth 400. Top 10 finishers. Kurt Busch with the win, started 5th, ended up in victory lane after leading 116 laps. There were a lot of different drivers who led today. How many different drivers led in this race? Let's see. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, William Byron led a lap until he had his left rear tire. We had 10 different drivers lead this race today. 10 drivers led this fucking race today. Kyle Larson was one of them, led 29 laps and led up to lap 259. When of course he got passed by Kurt with 7 laps to go. Still finishes second. Kyle Busch comes home in third after leading 18 laps. Denny Hamlin in fourth. Christopher Bell led 37 laps from the pole before finishing 5th. Truex Jr. also had a left rear tire go flat and had a speeding penalty. Still came back to finish 6th. Ross Chastain led 4 laps, comes home in 7th. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. This is his 3rd straight top 10 finish. Led 3 laps and comes home in 8th. Alex Bowman, very quiet 9th place finish, and Bubba Wallace recovers to finish 10th, although I definitely think he had a better car than that. Point standings halfway through the regular season. Despite his troubles today, Chase Elliott continues to lead the way in the regular season standings by 52 points over good friend Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch is third, 58 back. Then you have William Byron, Ross Chastain, Truex Jr., Joey Logano, Alex Bowman, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell in the top 10. The bottom half of the top 20 is Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Austin Dillon, Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, Austin Cindric, Eric Jones, Kurt Busch, who now moves up into the top 20, Daniel Suarez, and Denny Hamlin. Shows you how stacked that fucking top 20 is. I mean, if you're having, guys like Denny Hamlin and Kurt Busch, and Kevin Harvick not even in the top 10 in points at the moment, yeah. So, standings with F1 points. No Xfinity this week, so we'll leave them out of this one. And because of the fact that Matt Crafton won his appeal to overturn his disqualification, I basically had to redo the points for Darlington. So now everything is accurate with the Truck Series. So this is what they would look like with the F1 points. Ben Rhodes still leads, but his massive lead, which was 60 at one point, is now down to 17. As John Nemechek has closed the gap, as well as Zane Smith, who completely obliterated everybody in the truck race on Saturday night. Chandler Smith, the other Smith, is fourth, 116 back. Those are the only drivers at 100 points. Again, this is just for shits and giggles. Just need to clarify that once again. Ty Majeski came home in second, moves up to fifth in the standings. Then you have some big gaps between there and 20th. You have Christian Eckes, Carson Hocevar, Kyle Busch, and Grant Enfinger are tied for 8th. And you have Stuart Friesen in the top 10. Rest of the top 20. Parker Kligerman, Tanner Gray, Matt Crafton, who would have been in a lot lower position had he not got that disqualification overturned. Corey Heim, Derek Kraus, William Byron, Ryan Priest, Matt DiBenedetto, Tyler Ankrum, and Johnny Sauter. Yeah, it's looking like Matty D is not the driver we all thought he was, because he's struggling just to even finish in the top 10 in the truck series. I mean, I don't know if, the equipment's not up to snuff, or if he's just lost the motivation, because, I mean, let's be honest here. Going from Cup to trucks is incredibly deflating, to say the least. I mean, you could probably say that about John Hernimacek, because he was in the Cup Series as well, and then had to go back down to the Truck Series. But, I mean, John Hernimacek is making the most of his opportunity in the trucks. I mean, I think he got pushed up. I think JHN got pushed up the Cup too soon. So, going back into trucks, win some races, maybe a championship, move back up. I mean, he's also doing good in the Xfinity Series, whether he's driving the 18 car or the 26 car. So, I mean, do another year or two in trucks and Xfinity, then try to see if you can get back up to the Cup and maybe a better ride. So there's that. Cup standings with F1 points. Ross Chastain extends his lead over William Byron to 32 points. Kyle Larson is third with 160. You have Chase Elliott and Kyle Busch in the top 5. Rest of the top 10 is Joey Logano, Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Martin Truex Jr., and Alex Bowman. They are the only drivers over 100 points so far. And Ross Chastain is about to break the 200 mark. Rest of the top 10 is Tyler Reddick. Kurt Busch, with his win, jumps all the way up to 12th. Denny Hamlin, Chase Briscoe, Austin Dillon, Kevin Harvick, Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez, Eric Almirola, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Again, this is just for shits and giggles. As for my final rating, now that I think of it, my uncle was like in love with Jeff Gordon. Well, Jeff Gordon was very polarizing back in the day, for sure. You either loved him or you hated him. Mainly because he won a lot back in his heyday, and there were a lot of people that just didn't like that. So, as for my final rating for the AdventHealth 400, one of the weirdest races of the year, I gotta say. Actually, like I said, the weirdest race of the year, and probably the weirdest race of the decade so far. Like, some crazy shit going on in this race. I mean, the racing on the track was not perfect. There were a lot of cases when the race got into a run where it really settled down and there was nothing happening. But the restarts were good. The battles were pretty good when they happened. And then you have all the stupid shit that went on. That just makes you go, what in the actual fuck is going on with this race? Definitely the weirdest race of the year, to say the least. But, I mean, it was enjoyable. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, sometimes you just need a weird race to shake things up a little bit, and this was definitely it. I'll tell you one damn thing. This year's edition was a hell of a lot better than last year's, because last year, I mean, first of all, last year's race was called the Bushy McBush Race 400, which was one of the dumbest fucking race titles I've ever heard in my life. And then you had, of course, Tiregate, where NASCAR decided not to throw the fucking caution for a tire being out in the middle of the grass until after a pit cycle was done, when they literally could have, I mean, the easy solution for that would have been closing pit road for like 10 seconds, have an official quickly run out, grab the tire, get back over the wall, keep things green, and then reopen pit road. I mean, it would have been as simple as that. Instead, they throw the caution, which causes a lot of controversy, and then the rest of the race is just a clusterfuck after that. So, but then you have this year with all kinds of crazy, stupid shit, except none of it was the officiating, for the most part. It was just Goodyear being dumb, a lug nut getting cross-threaded, and a tow truck getting stuck in the mud. and a shit ton of tire blowouts. And yeah, Busch, there was, yeah, Coda, you didn't see that. They actually, the Busch beer was the sponsor of last year's race, and they had a contest to determine, what name they would pick for the title of the race. And the name that was chosen was Bushy McBusch Race 400, which is kind of ironic considering the fact that Kyle Busch ended up winning the race, and Kevin Harvick, who was driving a Busch-sponsored car, finished second. So I guess in some weird fucking way, it ended up working out. Yeah. Shows you how crazy this fucking sport can be. Especially with tonight. So, at any rate, what would I give this race? Well, like I said, there were some parts that were pretty boring. Like, once things got stretched out, there wasn't much going on. But, I mean, like I said, the restarts were good. The racing was good. The battle for the win at the end was great. Good, clean racing. And Larson even said that, Kurt never pushed me into the wall. There was never any contact. I mean, that's more than you can say for Logano, who got bitchy at the slightest amount of contact. God, Logano's such a fucking tool bag. But, yeah. Anyway, my final rating for this race, I'm going to give it a solid 7 on the fuel gauge. So 7 out of 10. Once again, the 1.5 mile races this year have been good. I mean, that's all I can really say. I think the new car has definitely improved the racing at the 1.5 miles. For the most part, they've been pretty entertaining. I mean, that's all you can really say. This season, I mean, when you look at 13 races in, we're halfway through the regular season. I mean, there's really only been one really bad race and like 2 kind of races. Or actually, no, 3 kind of races. Martinsville was the shit one. And then the races where you could kind of go on your Bret Hart shit, the 4 out of 10s, were Richmond, Phoenix, and Dover. Everything else has been pretty good. Or decent. I mean, what else can you say? So, of course, having a lot of parity and a lot of unpredictability helps. I mean, when you have a season where we have 11 different winners through 13 races, I mean, it's like, who the fuck is going to win next? I don't fucking know. I mean, this new car has thrown these teams for a fucking curveball, and if anything, it's really made for a very competitive 2022 so far. So, that's another big plus with this new car. But that's going to do it for tonight's edition of The Fuel, and there you can see some paint on my hat from where I've been painting this week. But that's going to do it for tonight's edition. Next week, for the Cup Series, it is All-Star race time. Yep, we're going to Texas Motor Speedway. I mean, the race last year was, it was okay for what it was. They changed the format up again. Of course, I talked about that. It was either last week or the week before when they unveiled the new format for the All-Star race. But we're going to get a look at that next week. So look forward to that. But I think it's just the trucks next week as well. Or maybe, let me take a look here. Let me take a look real quick and see what the schedule is like next week for All-Star Race Weekend in the Cup Series. So, trucks. Trucks will be there next week on the 20th, which I believe is Friday. Yes, 20th. The SpeedyCash.com 220 at 8:30. So that's going to be a night race on Friday night for the Truck Series. Let's see if Xfinity is going to be there next week. And indeed they are. They're going to be racing on Saturday afternoon. The Alsco Uniform, or no, that's Charlotte. Excuse me. The SRS Distribution 250 at 1:30 p.m. On Saturday. So both of the lower tier series will be there next week for All-Star Weekend. So there you go. See ya, Coda. Yeah, we're at the end of this review. For those that stopped by, thank you very much for watching. And see you next week for All-Star Weekend. See who's going to win the $1 million. I love Austin Powers. Good movie. Anyways, thank you very much for watching the Fuel here tonight. And until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later. As you listen to my sexy voice as I try to get over this cold. Alright, I'm done. See you next week. Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you jackweeds.